We're off. Go ahead, Oni, we're recording.
Sandra? I think
you are muted, Cassandra.
Okay, my apologies. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to this afternoon's press briefing, understanding free assistance aid and free education programs, rather, in New Jersey. My name is Cassandra Etienne. I'm Assistant Director at the Center for Cooperative Media. And I'm so pleased to join you for this conversation, which we'll jump into momentarily, looking at the impact and options available to New Jersey families in response to President Biden's recently announced student loan forgiveness plans. This event is part of a monthly press briefing held by the Center for Cooperative Media. We partner with some 150 ethnic media outlets throughout the state. This event demonstrates our continued commitment to helping ethnic and community media in a number of ways. For example, facilitating access to newsmakers and to government officials who can talk about issues that are timely and of concern to New Jerseyans. This afternoon, we're so happy to be joined by David Socolow of the New Jersey Higher Education Assistance Authority. And thank you to all of us for joining us. Thank you to all of you for joining us, rather. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Joe Amditis, who's handling the tech side of things for today's event with some announcements.
So yeah, hey everybody. For those of you who've joined these press briefings in the past, you know how this goes. We're going to hear from our guest speaker today for roughly 15 to 25 minutes. Our guest speaker today, David Socolow, has a lot to say on a variety of topics. So please make sure to pay attention and put your questions in the chat or your comments in the chat as David is speaking. You also will have an opportunity to ask questions out loud, to unmute yourself and ask questions directly to David. But if you'd like to have us read your question, you can also put it in the chat. We will be monitoring the chat and posting relevant links and information as David speaks and as is necessary. We are also recording this session, and we'll be sending around a transcript, an auto transcript, and a recording of the session as soon as it's done processing on Zoom. So keep an eye out for that in your email inbox. I think that's pretty much all here. If you have any issues or if you're having trouble with the platform, you can send me a private message on Zoom. Just make sure you switch back to everyone afterwards so that your questions can be seen by our speaker. And with that, Oni, barring any other housekeeping issues, I will go ahead and turn it over to David.
No, there are no other housekeeping issues, but I just wanted to introduce our speaker today. Thank you, Joe and Cassandra. I'm Oni Advincula, Project Coordinator of Community and Ethnic Media Initiatives at the Center for Cooperative Media. Why is it so important to talk about New Jersey state-funded education programs? Last month, Governor Murphy announced a new and innovative workforce development program called Pay It Forward. It is the first ever initiative in the nation that provides zero interest, no fee loans with living expenses to help New Jerseyans get education and training necessary to advance their careers. So our main speaker, David Socolow, will shed light on Pay It Forward and other state-funded education programs. Mr. Socolow was appointed Executive Director of the New Jersey Higher Education Student Assistance Authority by Governor Phil Murphy in February of 2018. Throughout his career in federal and state government and in the private sector, he has worked to advance the success of students and working families. His bio is also included in the agenda. So let's welcome David.
Oni, thank you very much, and to everyone on the Zoom. It's a pleasure to meet you all virtually, and thank you so much for the opportunity to say a little bit about how our state helps New Jerseyans of all backgrounds and from every economic circumstance pursue their dreams for post-secondary education beyond high school. So as mentioned, I'm privileged to lead an extraordinarily talented group of public servants at a state agency called the Higher Education Student Assistance Authority, HESAA. And HESAA is the state's financial aid agency. We are all about, in every way, helping students and families get the money and the information they need to figure out how to pay for and finance education after high school, higher ed. That can take many forms, traditional college, but also skills training and other programs that fit certain parameters and are boost success for people in the labor market. These investments, Governor Murphy has made extraordinary investments in his 4+ years as governor. I've been pleased to serve here during his time as governor at his appointment. And it's been an extremely creative and exciting time to try to boost college affordability, because Governor Murphy has made it a centerpiece of his broader strategy for economic growth. You know, it's great for each individual that we help, and we help students, one student at a time, one family at a time. But it also is not only advancing their individual aspirations, careers, and life goals, it also contributes to having the most highly educated workforce in the country, to move towards our state plan, which is a goal of achieving 65% of working age adults between the ages of 25 and 64, 65% of working age adults having a high quality post-secondary credential, degree or credential by the year 2025. It's an ambitious goal. We've moved some of the way in that direction, but we're still not at 65%. But that is our aspirational goal, and a major barrier to college attainment, access, completion is funding. And everyone knows that the cost of college over the last several decades went up faster than the rate of inflation. And we are all about trying to lower that net price. We do that in a number of ways. First and foremost, grants. Grants and scholarships are money that students can get, and they don't have to pay it back. It is a grant or a scholarship. Those are the terms we use. And to apply for state-funded aid, there's a federal program, but there's also state programs that HESAA administers. We use the same application that the federal program uses to avoid people having to fill out two different applications. And so everything is keyed to this federal process for student financial aid for college, which the feds call the FAFSA. So we have a FAFSA deadline for state aid. Students need to do that for a school year. If they're a new student, the fall semester, the deadline is September 15th. So that just happened. For the semester that's already underway. For the spring semester, it's February 15th. And if students are already getting aid, they have to renew that aid for the next year. They do that in the spring of the year. So they've got to get that done by April. If they think they're going to go back to school that following September, they have to renew by April. However, the federal program and the federal financial aid form does not apply to individuals who do not have, who lack documented immigration status. And so for certain undocumented New Jerseyans, we have a separate program, separate application. They get the same aid, the same state aid. They do not receive federal financial aid, but they do receive state financial aid by filling out our New Jersey alternative application for financial aid, which we call our application for New Jersey Dreamers. The definition in state law of a New Jersey Dreamer is an individual who's not eligible for federal student aid, likely because they're undocumented, who went to a New Jersey high school for at least 3 years of successful attendance, lives in New Jersey, and got a New Jersey high school diploma. And so those individuals who meet those criteria are able to qualify for state financial aid. So what are the state financial aid grants and scholarships that I referenced? New Jersey has the most robust state program for helping people pay their tuition for college. We have the tuition aid grant, which is the largest such grant of its kind in the country in terms of dollars of need-based aid awarded to undergraduate students as a percentage of all undergraduate students in the state, the highest dollar amount per student of any state in the country. And we're very proud of that program. It's the Tuition Aid Grant Program, lovingly referred to as TAG. And the TAG grant, TAG awards are worth thousands of dollars towards tuition. They can be combined with federal student aid for those students who are eligible for federal student aid. They often receive a federal need-based grant, which is called the Pell Grant, and Pell plus TAG together for low-income families can cover a substantial percentage of the total cost of sending a student to college, at least the upfront direct cost, that is tuition, tuition and fees. So we have the TAG program. We have also, Governor Murphy has made, and that program's been around since 1978. We have a number of other smaller scholarship programs, including a merit scholarship program called New Jersey Stars for students in the top 15% of their high school class, and the Governor's Urban Scholarship for students who live in one of 33 locations and are in the top 5% of their high school class. So there are other smaller scholarships along with the TAG award. What Governor Murphy added to all of this in what we've been able to produce here at HESAA in the last several years is a add-on component that makes college tuition free for many, many students. We call it the New Jersey College Promise. College Promise has two components. The first component, which started back in 2019, is the Community College Opportunity Grant, which covers tuition, so that tuition and mandatory standard fees for community colleges are tuition free for families with incomes of up to $65,000 a year. It's about 40%, a little bit more than 40% of all the students at community colleges meet that threshold. And so while TAG is for truly low-income families, there are many families sort of in that middle whose family incomes might be near $40,000 or $50,000 or $65,000, not getting a lot of TAG, not getting a lot from the federal Pell Grant program, probably in some cases getting nothing. We've got a program that fills in that gap and makes it so that the full price of a community college is tuition free. Two community colleges for a full-time, are averaging $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 a year in tuition, plus another few thousand in fees. We cover that amount. And so if you have other aid, that comes first, we pay that first, but whatever's left, whatever that remaining gap is, the Community College Opportunity Grant fills that in. And so people can get a 2-year degree from a community college, one of the 18 New Jersey community colleges. Starting this fall, we have added the second component of the New Jersey College Promise, which now adds years 3 and 4 at a public 4-year school, 4-year university, college or university in New Jersey. And so the New Jersey College Promise now together offers a 4-year pathway to a tuition-free bachelor's degree for students who start with 2 years at a community college with CCOG and then transfer and take 2 years 3 and 4 to get a bachelor's degree at one of New Jersey's public universities and colleges that offer bachelor's degrees. In addition, we have a step down. We don't cover the full cost of tuition, but we cover about half of it for families with incomes between $65,000 and $80,000. And so both at the community grant and the Garden State Guarantee, which is the second half of the College Promise, they both, in addition to covering full tuition, cover around half of tuition for the families in that next tier from 65,001 up to 80,000 in family income. And so between these two, we are offering to low and moderate income families in New Jersey, including families of students who are dreamers, New Jersey dreamers, the opportunity to have an affordable, high quality college education. Next up, the other way in which we help families is through a low-cost supplemental student loan program, the family loan called NJ Class. So for students and families who do need to borrow, perhaps they're above the cap where we've made college tuition free, or perhaps they're going to a private institution, and they need to borrow over and above that basic federal student loan. The federal student loans are capped. You're only allowed to borrow a certain amount of federal student loans for an undergraduate degree. Those are capped. And so for many undergraduates, there's a remaining balance that they need to finance. We can offer them a lower price, a lower interest rate than the interest rate offered by the Parent Plus loan, which is the federal supplemental loan that's much less generous than the federal direct loan that's capped. The federal Parent Plus loan isn't capped. You can borrow the rest of the balance up to the cost of attendance. And often they carry much higher interest rates. And Jennifer can show the picture showing the comparison of our interest rates compared to the others. Oni mentioned the Pay It Forward program. This, as was announced recently, and there is a separate page for Pay It Forward, which we can, there it is, that we will get you the link to, there it is. But Pay It Forward is an opportunity. It's a pilot program with public-private partnership. We got donations from some of New Jersey's leading companies in the CEO Council of Choose New Jersey. 8 companies made donations totaling $5 million. We have $7.5 million of state money from the last 2 budgets. We've put them together in a $12.5 million revolving fund. And that money will be used to pay for high quality job training that often is not fully funded with other forms of financial aid. And so we are giving low income and marginalized New Jerseyans an opportunity to get training that will get them a really good job, whether in cybersecurity in the IT field at NJIT, whether at nursing at New Jersey at Hudson County Community College, or in clean energy, specifically trades such as welding and HVAC at Camden County Community College. Those 3 institutions are piloting this approach in which we first pay for the tuition with a 0 interest loan that the student only pays back as a percentage of their income. So if they don't succeed after the training is over, they don't owe anything. If they do succeed and they get a good job, they owe an affordable payment that never grows because it's 0 interest. So they're only paying back what with the cost of the tuition over time, and they're only paying as a percentage of their income. So if their income drops, their payment goes away. If their income goes up, they pay more, and ultimately they only pay off the total they were advanced without any interest. If at the end of 5 years they've been paying faithfully, and because they were given lower amounts to pay, or they were allowed to pay nothing because their income was certified to be below the threshold, the rest of the balance is written off. So it's a lot of downside protection because we believe that these are high quality training programs that will get people good jobs. So that's Pay It Forward. You can learn more about that on the webpage. And then finally, 2 additional strategies we use to help people finance and pay for college. The first one is to save money over time for the future, so you don't have to take so much debt out when it's time for that student to go to college. And so families, often parents, grandparents, relatives, will save in a special, what's called a 529 account. It's called a 529 account because that's the section of the United States tax code that means that that money grows tax-free. There's no income tax from the feds or from the state on the growth in these accounts. If you put money away and it grows over time due to principal growth, interest, it's getting dividends, those accounts grow. Our account in New Jersey is called NJ Best, and you have the link to NJ Best. We have done several things under Governor Murphy's leadership to make the NJ Best saving opportunity, which was already great because the money grew tax-free. We've done things to target it better and to try to incentivize low and moderate income families to put away even a few dollars, because anything you save will be good later on to avoid having to take out debt for college. The first way is we've produced and created through the College Affordability Act of 2021, a new matching grant. Students who are families with incomes under $75,000, the first contribution they make to a new NJ Best account up to $750 is matched dollar for dollar with state funds to match that and boost those savings. So if you put in $100 for a baby's future college in a new NJ Best account and your family income's under $75,000, now you have a $200 saving account, not $100, because we'll match it dollar for dollar. So we have the matching program, and we also have a tax deduction. Each year that a family puts in money into a New Jersey Best account, that money is deductible off their New Jersey state income tax. And finally, we have a scholarship. If the beneficiary, who often starts out as a very young child of an NJ Best account, they're the beneficiary, but when they finally do go off to college, they go to a New Jersey college, we'll give them a one-time scholarship that's worth up to $3,000 to help pay for college, using the NJ Best resources to do that. So, we've really boosted college savings, and we're trying to get the word out about this valuable strategy for families. And then finally, there are a number of key occupations that society has determined, the New Jersey legislature and the governor have determined society is in desperate shortage and needs these occupations filled. These include doctors and nurses in unmedically underserved, disadvantaged communities. It includes nursing faculty because we need more professors of nursing because we don't have enough nurses. We have a nursing shortage, but often the blockage in that pipeline is a lack of capacity at the universities, the schools of nursing, and several other professions, including most recently behavioral healthcare and teachers of high need fields in low performing school districts. And so in each of these cases, New Jersey provides taxpayer funds that HESAA uses to enter into contracts where individuals will agree to service of a certain number of years in those targeted professions, and in exchange, we'll pay off a portion of their student loan debt with state dollars. And so those are all called loan redemption programs. They have been expanding in recent years. Governor Murphy has started a couple of them in the last few years, and we are excited about the very targeted opportunities to help people who are struggling with student loan debt from the past get some of it paid off. So that's a tour of all the different things HESAA does to try to help make college more affordable. And I look forward to taking your questions.
Thank you, David. We have actually our first question comes from Jungwon Lee. Jungwon, do you want to read your question?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for your time. Yeah. My understanding is the usually not alternative financial aid plan required affidavit stating you have to file the application to legalize your immigration status. So my question is there any form or sample letter for reference or simply like a piece of paper that I try to my best to legalize myself or do any additional documentation required for such as USCIS form 821D or other immigration documents?
No, there is not a standardized affidavit. Each college and university in New Jersey collects this information and certifies to HESAA that they have this affidavit on file. Subject to periodic spot audits, we do go in and ask the financial aid departments of colleges and universities like Rutgers and others, show us your files and samples of your files. So they do have to have them for Dreamers, but they don't have to submit them to HESAA. They submit them to their college Department of Financial Aid, and the colleges all have their own mechanism for capturing that affidavit. The affidavit is very simple. In most cases, undocumented individuals do not currently have a path by which they could regularize their immigration status. So there's nothing for them to do right now other than to say, when that changes, I will take the steps I need to take. You need to know the history of this Dreamer law was written at a time when I think New Jersey policymakers believed that the federal policymakers down in Washington, D.C. were at some point soon going to create a path to citizenship for, especially undocumented individuals who were brought here with their families when they were minors. And that hasn't happened, right? The DREAM Act in Washington, D.C. Is still on the drawing boards 20 years later. But that's really what that requirement refers to. If they ever get around to figuring this out at the national level, I swear on this affidavit that I'll take care of it. In the meanwhile, there's nothing else students have to do. The rest of the criteria for New Jersey Dreamers are objective indicia that we can verify here in New Jersey. Number one, are you a graduate? Do you have a diploma from a New Jersey high school or a high school equivalency diploma issued by New Jersey? Number two, did you go to a New Jersey high school for at least 3 years? You can get the transcripts from the high school, and the colleges all do that. And so those are the things they need to do. And then, of course, once they're in the process, then they are treated no differently from every other applicant for state financial aid. And if it's need-based aid, they have to meet the need requirements, which does mean that they're going to have to prove their income. There is no FAFSA for these students. They're using a different form, but we still are asking for verification of income. And that verification is done in many cases. New Jersey's undocumented families are not really in the shadows at all. They're telling the US government their income using what's called an individual taxpayer ID number, an ITIN. And we have all the data we need to say, oh yes, this is a family making this amount of money, and that's eligible for this amount of need-based state-funded student aid.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Happy
you.
to do it. Yeah.
There is a follow-up question along the same line of that topic by Don Tagala. Don, do you want to ask your question? Don is from ABS-CBN's Philippine channel.
Hi, can you hear me? So I was just wondering, what are the actual requirements, paperwork needed for undocumented students to apply for these programs if they don't have, the basic ID or Social Security? So what are the actual paperwork that they can actually show or are required from undocumented students?
Yeah, I mean, again, they don't have Social Security numbers in 99.9% of the cases. But what they do have, and again, it depends on which scholarship it is, but for the largest program New Jersey operates, for which this New Jersey alternative application for financial aid, which is like the FAFSA, but doesn't go to the feds, doesn't ask for a social security number. Other than that, it asks all the same questions. It asks all kinds of questions about their family circumstances, where their parents work and how much money they make and all of that kind of stuff. And that's for the purpose of delivering need-based aid. And again, the tuition aid grant, the TAG program, is a need-based program where the amount of the award, the grant award, depends on the family's challenging financial hardship and need. So students are often asked to document their financial need through information about employment and earnings, including small business earnings, by parents. And that's just like it is for every other student applying. The difference being, without an SSN, you're often reporting that using a tax return or tax data that was reported using an ITIN. There are students and families whose income is entirely unreported and under the table. They often are unable to receive aid, but that's true for families who have U.S. citizenship status as well. They're not getting any state aid either if their income can't be verified.
Thank you. The next question, it's not posted in the chat box, but Clibel Marcano of Reporte Hispano would like to ask you a question.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
All these programs sound very good. They have a great help for the community, for the people. But my question is any possibility in the future that at least a public university be free for everybody? Because one thing that we see is very, very surprising for me. For example, in my country, I study, the university was completely free. In Venezuela, it's not a rich country like the United States. And when we came this country and we have family, we have kids that come to the university, we see that's very expensive. It's almost impossible to pay for many family. So is any way that New Jersey thinking about to do free university for everybody, or why it's not possible in this country?
Well, I mean, I think that with the college promise, we have begun the process of trying to make the tuition price free. And by the way, I always want to say tuition free. College students are putting lots of resources. They're first of all putting in their time. Many cases, that's time that they're not able to work. So they may be working part-time while going to school, but they're losing income by going to school. They're making an investment in their future. They're also paying for books. They're paying for housing, the cost of life, right? Food and housing while they're in college, even if that's living with their parents or relatives, someone's bearing that cost. So what we're talking about is the tuition, what's called the direct charges, tuition and fees, which you're right, our tuition and fees for our public universities in New Jersey are very high. It's averaging around $16,000 for a full-time undergraduate per year to go to a public four-year school, and for a two-year school, for a community college, it's averaging around $7,000, $8,000 a year for full-time. That is an extremely high cost. We have endeavored to make that number zero for as many people as we can. We're now covering, with the college promise, the full price of that amount for almost 45% of all New Jersey college students whose incomes are below $65,000 or whose families' incomes are below $65,000. And for between 65 to 80,000, what you might call the heart of the middle class in New Jersey, we've got a discounted price. And so they're paying about half of the tuitions. Instead of paying $8,000 for a community college, they might be paying more like $4,000. And instead of paying $16,000 for a public four-year school in years 3 and 4, their net price after all of this aid is no more than $7,500. And so you can get a bachelor's degree if your family income is between 65 and 80. You can get a bachelor's degree, for no more than 32 or 33,000 over 4 years in tuition and fees, and for zero if your income is below 65,000. And so, look, that isn't everyone, but those two groups, tier 1, 0 to 65,000 adjusted gross income, and tier 2, 65,001 to 80,000, is almost 2/3 of all the students who are enrolled in colleges in New Jersey, colleges and universities, public ones in New Jersey. So can we get to family incomes above 80,000? Some of our colleges and universities have started doing that with their own money to build on top of Governor Murphy's College Promise initiative. For instance, Rutgers University has something called the Scarlet Promise, which also provides a discounted price for family incomes between 80 and 100,000. So they're going just slightly above the income scale and capturing even more of the students. So we're trying to make college more affordable.
Thank you. We have a very interesting question here on part-time students, and I'd like to ask Tina Kelly to ask her question.
Great, thank you. Hi, I'm Tina Kelly from NJ.com, the Star Ledger. And I'm interested in if there are ways the state is helping part-time students who may have trouble working or supporting their families while going to school. And I have a couple other follow-up questions later, whenever it's my turn again.
Sure. Well, so part-time students are eligible for all of our need-based aid grant programs at community colleges. And so the community colleges are the gateway to higher education, especially for working adults. And so you can get the full CCOG as well as TAG. Students who attend a community college half-time, which is defined as 6 credits per semester. So roughly 2 classes a semester. If you enroll at that level of intensity, you can receive TAG and CCOG, which means fundamentally, if your income is under 65,000 and you're attending part-time at a community college, your tuition is 0.
Wow.
Tuition and fees are 0. That being said, we do not have the same offering at most of our 4-year public institutions, let alone our 4-year private institutions. For those students in general, they have to be full-time. We have 2 initiatives, however, that are exceptions to that general rule. The first one is New Jersey has an extraordinarily impressive and successful program for the most disadvantaged, both educationally and economically disadvantaged students. It's called the Education Opportunity Fund, EOF. It was created in 1968. And the EOF program, which enrolls about 13,000 students a year. By contrast, TAG is about 80,000 students a year, but the EOF is 13,000 students a year who get an extraordinary suite of interventions of tutoring and mentoring and summer supplemental programs, winter supplemental programs, and other services. They are allowed to receive financial aid, state-funded financial aid, while attending part-time under certain circumstances. And secondly, New Jersey has one institution, one public 4-year institution dedicated to mostly online education programs for adults. It's called Thomas Edison State University. And starting this year, with a budget line item that Governor Murphy put into the 2023, the fiscal 2023 budget, that the Appropriation Act that was just signed a couple months ago. There's a new program called Go TESU, a grant opportunity for students at Thomas Edison State University, that will, for the first time, provide need-based aid, state-funded need-based aid to part-time students at that particular institution. So we are definitely trying to look for ways to address this issue, because enrolling full-time isn't going to work for every college student, but at least the first 2 years they can do with a community college, and there's now this new opportunity through Thomas Edison.
Great. That answers my next question. Can I ask a couple more?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tina.
I'm not the moderator. You can do it.
Yes, go just for one question, and then we'll move on to the next, and then we'll see if we have
Okay.
enough time. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned 13, or you mentioned a number of students, I guess 80,000 in TAG. Do you have a total number of how many students have been helped so far by these programs, and how much the state has spent on that investment?
Well, I mean, EOF has been around for more than 50 years, so I don't know that I've got a roll-up of what EOF has supported, but suffice it to say, generations of students have benefited from the EOF program. You know, it is a national model for really a comprehensive array. It's not just the cash money. It recognizes that, yes, we've got to make tuition affordable, but then especially for students who've come in with multiple disadvantages and barriers, and are often the first generation in their family to attend college, that they need all kinds of other supports and services. And so EOF does a tremendous job. 42, I think it is, I'm sure the EOF webpage has the answer to this question, 40-something colleges and universities receive grants from the state to run EOF supplemental programs. You know, the TAG program, by contrast, is relatively young. It's only been around since 1978, and it has become the premier, you know, financial aid grant program of its kind in the country. You know, I mean, the feds around the same time started the Pell Grant. I think it was originally called the Basic Education or Basic Opportunity Grant, something like that. But they renamed it for Senator Pell of Rhode Island, and it's been the Pell Grant for about 40 years as well. But the TAG program has now eclipsed Pell. For many students, their TAG award is larger than their Pell award.
Mm. And do you have figures on like how many students are in TAG and CCOG?
Yeah. So TAG, again, supports more than 80,000 students. About 1/3 of all enrolled undergraduates in colleges and universities in New Jersey are receiving a TAG award of some size. CCOG, you know, I mean, the community colleges are a relatively smaller subset of students, but we have been providing CCOG for the last several years. Again, we give CCOG only if there's a gap remaining.
Right.
So about half, just under half of all students at community colleges have family incomes under $65,000. So they could be getting CCOG. They don't all need to get CCOG because TAG and Pell and EOF and the scholarship from their local Rotary Club and whatever else they're able to put together, that comes first. CCOG is referred to as a last dollar scholarship. And so it only fills in the gap. So actually only about 12 or 13,000 students a year receive an award from CCOG. It's spending about 27 million a year. But that's not the way to measure CCOG. CCOG is a promise. It says if all your other aid doesn't make college tuition free, we will backstop that and make college tuition free. And so the number of people who it turns out we have to do that for is a number of about 12, 13,000 students a year.
Thank you, Tina, for those questions. And thank you, David, for addressing them one by one. We have Mark Tyler here of Atlantic City Focus. He has a question on New Jersey class loan.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, how are you, David?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. With the New Jersey class loan that kind of provides aid and covers some costs in excess of what the other aid might be, is there a cap on that loan amount? And then what is the income requirement for a person to be eligible for that loan program?
Right. The answer is yes. There is a cap. There's two ways that it's capped. The first way is you cannot, three ways. Number one, you can't take out an NJ class loan until you've maxed out your federal direct loans. And so for an undergraduate, which is really who the class loan is for, if you're an undergraduate, in general, the feds won't let you take out more than $5,500 your first year of undergraduate, $6,500 your second year, and $7,500 the years after that, for no more over your whole lifetime of $31,000. And for many middle-class families, even after financial aid grants, and then after doing 7,000-ish or whatever per year in federal direct loans, there's a gap. That's the gap we cover. The second way it's capped is it cannot cover more than the school certified total cost of attendance. So if the school tells us, here's our charges, you can't then take out an extra $2,000 to, just go on a holiday or whatever you want to do with it. The New Jersey class loan is capped at the school certified cost of attendance minus all other aid and federal direct loans. And then third, you're not allowed to borrow total more than, I think it's 160 something thousand, but my staff will get what that number is. It's on somewhere, it's on a web page. There is a total cap of the total amount of NJ class borrowing that any family is allowed to do per student. To answer your second question, most NJ class loans are family parent loans. More than 90% of the loans have a co-signer, because these are not funded with state dollars. They're funded with investors' bonded money, where the bond promises the repayment from the loans as the source of the premiums to those bondholders, to those private investors. And so we have to credit score and income score eligibility for these loans. If the family applying, and it's, as I said, almost always a parent or a niece, aunt, or uncle, or grandparent, or whatever, doing this NJ class loan application for a student, they have to have at least a $40,000 a year annual income, and they have to have at least a 670 credit score. And so it's not for everyone, but for those families for whom it is available, it is a significant savings compared to the Parent Plus loan, which the feds charge an astronomically high interest rate for.
So to be clear, as I kind of write this up, we can adequately and accurately categorize this as an alternative to the Federal Plus loan. Is that correct?
That's exactly what it's meant to be. And there's a web page somewhere, probably in all these links that I see scrolling over here on the side. There's a web page that has a little side-by-side chart that shows us a class loan versus plus. That's what we're here to do. We are basically using the borrowing power of the state, the ability to issue these what are called private activity bonds. They're not taxpayer-backed bonds. There's not a penny of taxpayer money in NJ class loans. But what we are doing is saying, we're the state, we're not here to make a profit. We will run this loan program basically at cost. And we will, the bonds are tax-free. That is, people who buy these bonds, when they get their interest, they don't have to pay taxes on that. And if they're New Jersey residents, they don't have to pay taxes to the New Jersey either. So like most bonds, people who like to invest in bonds, you do so to save on taxes. And so that's who buys these bonds. All we're giving them back is the right to the repayments that the families make. And there's a bunch of assumptions that not everyone will repay everything, because people run into hardship and they default. And so you have all of that built in. But we are using that ability to get a lower price for a supplemental student loan. Again, after you've done your federal direct loans, and there's a gap, don't do Parent Plus because they're too expensive. Do these instead if your family income and credit score make you eligible.
David, we have about 11 minutes remaining. There is an interesting question here that comes as a text message. It says, Pay It Forward is a public and private initiative. What is the sustainability of it? In other words, if a student comes in the later part of Governor Murphy's term, what happens to the loan when the administration changes?
Well, the loan is a promissory note. We've hired an outside entity to administer the program. So the loan, we've got a nonprofit group called Social Finance that's administering Pay It Forward loans. And so they will pay the training provider, the school. In this case, as I mentioned, we're starting out with 3 programs at Hudson County Community College, Camden County College, and New Jersey Institute of Technology. They'll pay them, and then they have a promissory note, like any loan, between them, social finance, and the student. And so the terms of that loan are, as I mentioned, extraordinarily generous, but that is a 5-year loan. It will obviously extend beyond this governor's term in office. As far as the theory of why do loans at all, it's because the money will stretch further. We believe that these students will succeed. They will take these relatively short training programs of 8 months to a couple of years, at the end of which they're going to get really good paying jobs in New Jersey. They're going to pay back those loans, even under these extraordinarily generous 0 interest terms. They're still going to pay back that money. It's going to come back into a revolving fund, and not a penny will be used on anything other than training the next cohort of students. So it is meant to be a recyclability of the funding. That's how Pay It Forward pays it forward to the next iteration. If at any point, the money has dwindled down, that would be the end of the program. We believe this will be a proof of concept, and that future administrations and future private sector companies are going to say, I want to put my philanthropic dollars into this, because this stretches my money further. The same dollar, instead of training somebody just once, trains several people, because the money comes back and recycles a couple of times. But yet, no, eventually that money will dwindle down to 0. The initial $12.5 million will certainly train more people than if we just paid for training up front and then didn't ask for any repayment. We'll train more students, more people will get good jobs. That's the benefit, but it's not a perpetual motion machine. It will eventually dwindle down to 0.
Okay, we probably will be able to get 2 more questions. Emma, would you like to ask your question before we go to Tina again?
Sure. So it sounded like the loan redemption program mainly covers students in mainly STEM. Will there be other options for all New Jersey students at some point?
So the loan redemption programs, to be clear, are state funded. When you're doing a loan redemption, you're paying off a loan to someone else. This isn't like the federal government, where they're the holder of federal student loans and they're just writing those off under the president's recent announcement. This is essentially a state investment in workforce shortages. And so every time the state passes one of these, what they're saying is, we believe it's worthwhile to put a few $1,000,000 into the state budget every year to help incentivize individuals to take certain jobs, to provide service in certain ways. We do have teacher loan redemption. We also have a federal program that we administer for the United States Department of Justice that gives a certain amount off the law school loans for people who become public defenders and state prosecutors, which are, they're lawyers and they have all these law school debt, and people might not want to go into a lower paying lawyer job, and so similarly we incentivize them a little bit to do that with a loan redemption. But in the past, there's been loan redemption programs for social service workers. There's a new one for behavioral health care workers, which includes social workers, as well as psychiatrists and psychologists and others, especially working with children and teens, given the youth mental health problem that society is currently confronting. So the legislature and the governor put these programs into place, put budget money behind them. We're helping a relatively small number of people deal with targeted shortages.
Now, before we go to Tina's question, thank you. Can the student combine all of these loans? Let's say, 2 or 3 of these combinations. And then can a student go to a different college outside New Jersey, although they went to high school and was born and lived in New Jersey for the rest of their lives?
you can't take our grants and scholarships out of the state. New Jersey grants and scholarships are only good within the state. Many of the grants and scholarships are stackable, right? So certainly College Promise ladders on top of TAG, EOF is on top of TAG often. Well, almost everyone getting EOF is also getting TAG because they're very low income. The programs that we talked about that are grants and scholarships are all about colleges and universities located in the state of New Jersey, public and private. It's colleges and universities. The loan program, if you're a New Jersey resident and you do want to go to college out of state, NJ class loans do travel to out of state institutions.
Thank you. With that, let's give Tina again her last question.
Thank you. I don't mean to hog you, but I'm interested in whether or not there are any state programs that are helping to get folks who have some college but not a full degree. Are you reaching out to them specifically, and if so, how?
Yes, we are. Our colleagues at a different state agency, which is the New Jersey Office of Secretary of Higher Education, lovingly referred to as OSHE. The OSHE budget included an initiative that they led under Governor Murphy's direction, and the governor put into his budget this year a new initiative called Some College, No Degree. $3 million is in the fiscal 23 budget that just started to try to do outreach, recruitment, and frankly, supportive services, mentoring and other supportive services to figure out what it's going to take to get individuals, nearly 1 million, 800,000+ New Jerseyans, tried college, have some college credits on a transcript, but didn't complete a degree. And it's essential to give them this direct advice and counseling they need to bring them back. Now, we're doing our part at HESAA to make it more affordable. So, you know, they get the message about CCOG and Garden State Guarantee and the College Promise that, you know, may well be very affordable to come back to college, but it's not just money. It's all kinds of issues and barriers, including the status that they might be in with the school that they left and getting things cleared up, and frankly, just their concern about whatever it was that may have been challenging them when they left, when they stopped out. We don't believe anyone drops out. They stop out and they can come back, and we're going to, through this initiative, our colleagues in state government are going to do some outreach and make it easier for individuals to return and complete those degrees.
Is there a number they should call, or a place that, how do folks get into the system?
Yeah, Jennifer can try to get the information on that. I believe there is some kind of a holding page or a web page or something that OSHE has put up on that.
Okay. Thank you.
With that, thank you very much, David, for everything. This is really wonderful. Thank you for everyone who's been a part of this. I will hand it over to Joe because he has some special announcements, especially for you folks who have follow-up questions to Mr. Socolow and important documents that you probably would want for your story. So Joe, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
again.
Moni. I appreciate it. And thank you, David. And I appreciate it. Thank you, Jennifer, as well. Just a note that we're going to be sending out an email very shortly with the recording, the transcript, the audio version, the chat log, and then a list of links and programs and resources that were all mentioned during this wonderful session. So keep an eye out for that from me. And yeah, please, you know, let us know if you publish any stories with the reporting that, on this. We'd love to help share them and spread the word. So thank you all so much, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoyed it.